Hi all, this is in continuation to the previous video which I made on carbon and its compound. So in this video also we will continue with the properties of carbon. So one of the very important properties of carbon is that it forms covalent bond, right? So bonds are of two types. So they can be either ionic or covalent, and carbon forms a covalent bond. This is what we need to remember. So ionic bonds are those in which transfer of electrons takes place, and covalent bonds are those in which sharing of electron takes place. So carbon shares its electrons, right? So because we did in the previous video, we saw that carbon has 4 valence electrons. So it's very difficult to gain 4 electrons or lose 4 electrons in order to complete its octet. So we know that all the elements want to complete their octet and become stable, right? Attain the noble gas configuration. So carbon is also similar. It also wants to complete its octet, right? It wants 8 electrons in the last shell. So for this, it already has 4 electrons. So it either needs to gain 4 electrons, lose 4 electrons, which is very difficult. So it decides to share electrons. The carbon shares electrons, right? Shares electrons. Therefore, it forms a covalent bond. And also one thing that you should know is that generally the ionic bond would be between a metal and a non-metal, and the covalent bond is between two non-metals, right? So if you see this diagram, so I've drawn like carbon in the center and 4 hydrogen are there. Carbon valence electron I've shown by crosses, so you'll see 4 crosses here, and hydrogen valence electron are dots, so you'll see little dots here, the 4. So hydrogen has just 1 valence electron, so it has just 1 electron, which you can see all hydrogens have. So what it does is carbon shares electrons in the sense that it already has 4 and sees 4 from hydrogen. So you can see this dotted line is completing its octet like this. So when it needs the 4 electrons, it just asks from hydrogen. Similarly, when the hydrogen completes it completes its duplet and not octet, so it takes borrows the electron from carbon and forms gets 2 electrons, because the last shell is also K, so it can accommodate a maximum of 2 electrons only, right? Like carbon needs 8 electrons to get stable, hydrogen just needs 2. So it gets its 2. Similarly, this hydrogen is also going to get its 2 electrons, become stable and shares here, and this hydrogen shares here, and carbon in turn shares 1 from each of the 4 hydrogen, completes its octet and becomes stable. So sharing of electrons is taking place, covalent bond is going to get formed here. One important applications of this covalent bond is this catenation. So catenation is basically a self-linking property of carbon atom, right? So it forms long chain of carbon atoms. So one carbon atom connected to another, connected to another, connected to another, forms a long chain of carbon atoms, and it's generally seen that carbon exists in this long chain form only, right? So this is catenation, and catenation is not just with other carbon atoms, it's with other non-metals also. It might be with fluorine or with hydrogen and so on, right? So it's the self-linking property of carbon atom is what we need to remember. So basically this sums it up, that carbon shares electrons, forms a covalent bond, shows the property of catenation, right? Because of which large number of carbon atoms exist, right? Okay, thanks for watching guys.